Welcome back. All right, so my continuing look at teams that missed the playoffs this season, we're going to talk about the Seattle Kraken. So yesterday they fired their coach Dave Hackstall. So if I'd been doing this video yesterday, it is possible that for the second time in this playlist, I would have been doing and uploading a video while a team fired their coach. So Hackstall being fired, not really a surprise after Ron Francis hedged when they're like, "So you're going to bring back the coaching staff?" So there's going to be a change in behind the bench. Ron Francis not happy with how the season went, talked about inconsistency, things of that nature. But they did finish 34, 35, and 13. 81 points would have been seen as an improvement if they'd done that in year two. But in year two, they had 100 points. So instead, it's seen as a drop from 100 points, which it is. But I do think that 100-point team last season, I think everything went really well for them. They had a fantastic run. Of course, they knock out Colorado in the first round, and I think it raised the bar too high. I think the expectations for Seattle this year were probably too high. That being said, with the right moves this offseason, with the right coach behind the bench, Seattle could be back in the running for a playoff spot next year. Their goals for took quite the drop. They went from being the best team 5-on-5 in the NHL when it came to scoring last season to being 29th overall in goals for this season. Oddly enough, their goals allowed got better. They were ninth. The defense and the goaltending definitely got better for this team, and so we'll see whether or not that keeps up this season. Again, depends on who you hire, but it should be an interesting one. Their playoff drought, and I will just let Buffalo fans get mad at the word drought for this, but it's one season. Red Wing fans might take issue, Sens fans too, but it is a playoff drought. They didn't make the playoffs. So just the 1 year, and they're looking to jump back in next season. Now, when we look at their results this year, they did get off to a slow start, which handicapped their chances of making the playoffs. We talk about that every season. Team gets off to a rough first 10 games. And people will always say, there's so much time left. There is, but this team hasn't been playing well enough, and how are they going to turn it around? The reality is they almost did. They had that 9-game winning streak, and there were definitely some announcers. Basically, on the American broadcasts, I noticed a lot of announcers saying they believed in the second half of the season Seattle was going to go on a run and make the playoffs. Never really happened. They had two 8-game losing streaks this season, and so the two 8-game losing streaks would more than cancel out that 9-game winning streak. But either way, it means that they were right on the verge of getting a video on a winning streak. They were twice on the verge of getting a video for a losing streak, and it didn't quite happen. For Seattle, it will be interesting to see which team they're able to get out on the ice next year. The one that ended up with 81 points this year, or the one that had 100 points the year before. Now, when we look at the upcoming draft lottery, the odds of them winning it, not great. They have a 6% chance of drafting first, 6.2% chance of drafting second, a 0.2% chance of drafting third, and then we get to eighth, where they have a 54.4% chance of drafting eighth, a 30% chance of drafting ninth, a 3.2% chance they draft 10th. For them to draft 10th, two teams that are higher in the standings than them would have to win the draft lotteries, and then that would drop them to 10th. It's highly unlikely, but there's a 3% chance that it does happen. And then, of course, all hockey fans everywhere are just like, that's fine. That's fine. A team that barely missed the playoffs gets a top draft pick. It's fine. Everybody's always happy when that happens. Basically, the draft lottery is the one time of year where there's like two or maybe three happy fan bases and all the others are upset. So we'll see how things turn out for Seattle with the draft lottery. And of course, before I'm done this series, we'll know who's drafting where. I won't have draft lottery odds on the board anymore. And as a playlist, it makes it a little bit odd. But I'm not starting it after the draft lottery's done because that's crazy. That's way too long after the season's done. Jared McCann was the leading scorer for this team as we look at their top three scorers. 29 goals, 33 assists, 62 points in 80 games. Probably right around where McCann belongs. Probably overachieved last season. And so for McCann, you're looking at a guy who's a 30-goal scorer going forward, which is still pretty good. Bjorkstrand, 20 goals, 39 assists, 59 points in 82 games. I think Bjorkstrand's been really good for them. And Vince Dunn went in the lineup. Excellent. 59 games, 11 goals, 35 assists, 46 points. For Vince Dunn, I think he had a pretty good all-around season. He had some defensive issues here and there, but generally a pretty good year for him. Then we look at their 22 and younger crowd that were on the roster this year, and it starts with Matty Beniers. And Matty Beniers, he had quite the setback in season 2, comparatively speaking, with his Calder winning season 1. 77 games, 15 goals, 22 assists, 37 points. In fact, if this had been his rookie season this year, He doesn't even get into the top 3 for the Calder. So it will be interesting to see if he's able to bounce back next year. Normally, a star player on the way will, and they'll have that down year, and then they just bounce right back. But we'll see. Cartier, I was impressed with Cartier. 77 games, 11 goals, 9 assists, 20 points. Really good effort level, and I think there's more offense there. I wouldn't be surprised if he's a regular 20-goal scorer for them at some point soon. Riker Evans, I was impressed with him in the AHL playoffs last year in the Calder Cup final. And for Evans, 36 games, 1 goal, 8 assists, 9 points. Shane Wright only got into 8 games because they didn't want to burn a year of his entry-level contract. They're going to burn a year of it next year. 8 games, 4 goals, 1 assist, 5 points. One of the most bizarre stories is Shane Wright's, draft, and then he signs his entry-level contract, and, well, he goes to the AHL, but he ends up... Anyways, he's been all over the place, and it'll be nice to see him get a regular shift with Seattle next year. And I wouldn't be surprised if Shane Wright puts up some points, too. Morrison did not put up points in his call-up. 4 games for him. And Winterton, 9 games, no points for him either. But I think both players showed enough that they probably get more games next year. Maybe a bottom 6 role with the team. We shall see. Their goaltending tandem, an interesting one in that Decord was 19, 18, and 11 with a 916 save percentage. Grubauer 14, 16, and 2 with an 899 save percentage. But what's interesting to me is that they won 19 games of Decord's decisions. They technically lost 29 of them. That's going to include shootouts too. They won 14 decisions with Grubauer and lost 18 of them. So while Grubauer's numbers are worse, are they? So anyways, and I understand that yes, but this is a team that needs to do more, because when you have a 916 save percentage from your starter and you only win 19 of the games that he has the decision in, that tells you this team was 29th in goals for. That's where that can show up. So they're pending unrestricted free agents and restricted free agents. Tatar, it feels like this is probably the end for Thomas Tatar. I don't think he plays again next year. Belmar's going to play next year, I would think. I would think probably at least one more year in the National Hockey League. Justin Schultz, be interesting to see where he ends up. Drieger, that contract comes to an end. I'd like to see Drieger get like a tryout and a contract somewhere else next year. His numbers weren't awful this year, in all honesty. His contract wasn't great, and he got passed on the depth chart by Decord. But Drieger might be a good reclamation project for a team that's looking for a goaltender. And Cole Lind. So I remember when Seattle got Lind in the expansion draft, Canuck fans weren't all that happy. They thought maybe Lind would come back to haunt him. Now you can get Lind for free. Restricting free agents, Kyler Yamamoto, who did not have the kind of year with Seattle that I think he would have envisioned at the start of the season. I would think he probably stays in Seattle, but it's only probably a 1 or 2 year deal. Tolvanen had a bit of a setback this year compared to last year. And so we'll see what Tolvanen's next contract looks like. But really, the big question mark is, how much money does Beniers get? Is it an 8-year extension? After having this, rougher second year, does that drag down the expectation for that contract a little bit? Or do you look and say, you know what? We're going to pull the trigger. We're going to give this guy 8 years at, say, $6 million a year, and cross our fingers and hope it all works out. And I'm just using that as just a number to throw out there. But I think Matty Beniers gets paid, but is it this summer or is it in a couple years? Because, again, if the team decided we'll give him a 2-year bridge deal, I don't know that fans would be necessarily that upset or bewildered, but, okay, maybe a little bit bewildered. But we'll see what Beniers gets. This is a team that does have some cap space on July the 1st. $23,124,167. So let's say in the event Beniers gets, let's say, $6 million, you'd still have $17 million left. Tolvanen gets what? Probably a few million too. They're going to have some money to add if they choose to do so. And so they could be one to watch on July the 1st. Maybe they go out and get a big name on July the 1st. Because one thing that I do notice with Seattle when I'm looking at this team is there's a good team there, but there isn't really that go-to superstar player. And if you look at the teams that have moved on from the first round of the playoffs so far, which is Colorado, the Rangers, and Carolina, they definitely have go-to superstar players. So when we talk a lot about goaltending and defense and everything, those superstar players are really important too. So for Seattle, if they can get somebody who can, be that sort of player, and obviously they don't find a lot of superstars with unrestricted free agent status, but if they can add some star power to the team at least a little bit, it could help. They have a few added draft picks this year. They have a second-round pick from the New York Rangers, a third-round pick from the Toronto Maple Leafs, and a seventh-round pick from the Flames. Next year, they've added a fourth-round pick from Dallas. Seattle hasn't been accumulating a ton of draft picks. They don't have a lot of like big-name prospects either. So there isn't anybody right now that's going to come out of the NCAA and just really tear it up for them. Odds are, if things are going to get fixed next year and they're going to get back to the playoffs, it's probably going to be the guys who you see on the board here, especially your top three: Beniers, probably Cartier, maybe Riker Evans and his development. It'll be interesting to see how it all turns out. So one thing I wanted to focus on a little bit here before we close this out is just how much you can qualify this as good fortune on some level, but just their fortunes changed this year. So their shooting percentage as a team in year one was 8.9%. The league average that year was 9.8%. Their save percentage in year one was 890. The league-wide save percentage was 902. So they weren't getting the defense and the goaltending you wanted, and they're not getting the shot selection that you want either, or just bad luck, right? Their shooting percentage is low. It's either bad shooting selection or just bad luck. Then last year, their shooting percentage of 11.6%, way higher than the league average of 10.1%. And just, is that sustainable? Probably not. And so this year's drop is not necessarily a surprise. It's just how far it dropped. And last year's save percentage was 886. The save percentage actually dropped from the year before. It dropped around the league too, though, 899 last year. This year, 9.1 shooting percentage. Yeah. In the league, went up to 10.2%. So now they're shooting well below league average again. Further below league average than they were their first year, but their save percentage of 903 was better than the league average of 898. So this is a team that, if they can keep that save percentage up, they really just need to get that shooting balanced as well. And we could see them back to, say, I would say 90, 95 points next year and knocking on the door of a playoff spot. I don't think they're going to have like this tremendous huge boost next year and end up being top two in the division or anything, but crazier things have happened. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Who are the real Seattle Kraken? The team that won 9 in a row, or the team that lost 8 in a row twice, or somewhere in between? Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Thank you guys so much for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.